I want you to know that I have been receiving threats ever since the public condemnation started. I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we attack people in the public, because there are crazy people out there who take those sort of attacks as permission to do unthinkable things to people. I am on a personal mission to make Canada Canadian again, and I am going to do everything that I can to facilitate the conversations that will lead us to that sort of change.
Accused of being a transphobic bigot, threatened with violence, and now threatened to be assassinated. That's just some of the nightmare that Comfort Sakoma is still going through. You may recognize that name because she is the BC mom and former vice chair of the Vancouver Police Board until she was coerced out of her position after sharing Canadian, Christian, conservative views on her own personal Instagram. You can catch her tell-all story about that vicious cancellation, which I'll link in the description box below. But for now, I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and Comfort Sakoma joins me now to tell you the latest about her plight. Now, I want to give everybody the update on what's been happening, the good, bad, and the ugly. But let's start with the bad, which is the whole reason why I asked you to do this interview. We're going to start with some quite frightening death threats you've received here. It's someone here who has texted you claiming that you need to keep information between the two of you and that they've been watching you closely, not to tell the police, but someone has hired them to kill you. And they claim that they're on your side, they're going to get you more information. Tell us, considering the context of everything going on, what was going through your head when you received these text messages?
The first set of death threats that I sort of received were in the immediate aftermath of the board's statement and the public condemnation that I received from various levels of government. And I ignored all of them because it was mostly people sending me messages on social media saying things like, I hope you die, get out of BC, if I ever see you outside, I'm going to punch you in the face, etc. I didn't report those. I didn't even pay them any attention because, again, it's social media. It is what it is. But what happened yesterday afternoon at 3:27 p.m. was very different. I received a text message where the person essentially started by saying, hi, comfy, which was really strange because nobody calls me comfy in my circle. And it was from a phone number that I didn't know and an area code that I wasn't familiar with. Ultimately, they went on to explain, as you just mentioned, that they'd been hired by a business associate to have me killed. And like you said, that they didn't want to do that. And so they would provide me with additional context and information in the morning. My immediate reaction was I literally felt my heart sink. And my first thought was, my son is at daycare, is he safe? I didn't want to call the daycare and give them any cause for alarm because I didn't want that to affect his continued enrollment. But I immediately just thought, especially because the person said, I've been watching you, thought, is my child safe? What's going on? What's happening? So my immediate...
So I lost you there for a little bit.
The person threatening me is who's just calling.
That's him calling again in real time.
Anytime anyone tells me don't go to the police, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And my first thought was to inform the board and the province. My expectation would be that, given sort of the fact that they, through their own, particularly the board, through their own statements and public condemnation of me, have made me subject of national interest, to be very honest, that there would be some sort of consideration or thought given to what a safety plan might look like. And so I took screenshots of all the messages that I received, and I sent an email to the board chair, Frank Chong, to a person at the province, and the chief of police, Chief Adam Palmer. And I just said to them, here are the threats that I'm receiving. I want you to know that I have been receiving threats ever since the public condemnation started. I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we attack people in the public, because there are crazy people out there who take those sort of attacks as permission to do unthinkable things to people. Almost immediately, the province responded by saying, you need to report this to the police, make a police statement. They're best equipped to handle this. The board chair responded, echoing the exact same message that I should go report it to the police. And the only person who expressed any sympathy and followed up by checking up on me was actually Chief Adam Palmer of the Vancouver Police Department. He immediately sort of responded and say, "Hey, Comfort, I'm really sorry you're going through this. I know it's very scary." He copied some of the senior leadership at the department and had an inspector call me right away. Now, because I don't live in Vancouver, I'm currently sort of not in Vancouver. They had to hand it over to my local RCMP. And they, the police department themselves tried to follow up and ensure that there would be some sort of response. Surrey Police, when I called 911, I was transferred to, I made a report essentially. I was transferred over to a constable. And I was like, well, I need to go pick up my son, and I'm kind of afraid about doing that. Can I get some sort of support to go and pick him up? And I was essentially told that not only can I not receive support, but there isn't much of an investigation that can be done. And so if I see anybody following me or looking at me weirdly, then I should give them a call.
When you told me about this, I thought we got to tell the public about this. And there's more to those text messages that you're still receiving. But what is standing out to me is here you are. You've had so many attacks on your character. According to you, Frank Chong is also the person who had spoken out about this without even reading, apparently, what you wrote, which seems to be what a lot of people did. I know in the report we focused on how even the conservative MLA, Eleanor Sturko, came out and basically accused you of transphobia and being anti-police. Here you are, an advocate for the police, for safety for police, less violence against police, and of course you didn't say anything transphobic, and you're getting these hate messages, and we don't know if this is all connected, but it does seem to be a lot for a woman, a mom, to be going through, and I'm sorry you're going through that. When I heard this has happened, I did, of course, look into it. I wanted to know, is there, if possible, this has happened to anybody else? And when I did, I found this article. I'm going to put it on the screen now here. And here you see a notice from the RCMP and the Prince George Citizen calling it a hitman scam. So for those of you who didn't know, I guess this is a thing. And when I look at the article, it says here that the Mounties in Prince George are advising the public not to fall victim to a scam that is currently circulating, known as the hitman scam. Police say people are receiving threatening messages by email or text with the sender claiming to have been hired to kill them. So this is very similar to what you have. And then I noticed at the very end of the article, it says here, police say the scammers use information about you that they found online as part of the fraud. And boy, has your name been online ever since you were coerced out. I know you used the term forced out of your position as vice chair on the police board. So how are you feeling now? Of course, I shared that information with you. How are you feeling now that you've seen the article and the situation?
Yeah, now that I've seen thank you for sharing that article with me last night, because as you can imagine, I did not sleep. I felt extremely nervous, angry, and a whole host of feelings, particularly as I considered, the safety of my 2-year-old. I can say that thanks to the support of people like yourself who provided me with that article, some of the conversations that I've had with friends and close allies, it feels like ultimately this is probably more of an extortion exercise than anything else. And of course, I'm not going to fall prey to that sort of attack. However, it does make me very reflective on the state of our province and our country, especially when it comes to just freedom of speech. Over the past week, I've had an opportunity to really reflect on what my experience has been and to really sort of take it in. It's been a lot. It's been a roller coaster of a week. In between managing all of the craziness and all the blessings that have come from the internet, I still have to be a mom. I still have to fulfill my mom duties. I still have to figure out what's next for me in terms of jobs. There's a lot of concern in my mind just around will I ever be employable again in the province? Will I have to leave the province? I'm excited about sort of my choice to start a podcast. I think I refuse to be silenced. I think it's really important to continue to have the difficult conversations that we need to have. I am on a personal mission to make Canada Canadian again. And I am going to do everything that I can to facilitate the conversations that will lead us to that sort of change. And if that means that, life changes a little bit for me, then so be it. But what I heard from Canadians coast to coast is that we are tired of being silenced. We're tired of being forced to sit in a corner. We're tired of being labeled. And I'm not going to accept any labels that anybody puts on me. I am Comfort Sakoma. I'm a woman who loves people irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their ways of life. But I also am a person who's well studied, well read. I know what the foundation of this country is. I know what it stands on. I'm a person who's visited 39 countries around the world, including India. And what I know is that there are differences country to country, and I know that we're very privileged to be in Canada. I lived and worked in over the course of 10 years in 20 some odd countries when I worked in international development. I've seen what the world looks like. I've seen what happens when countries prevent their citizens from being able to speak. And it's the hypocrisy for me that in so much of the world, Canada leads discussions around democratic free speech. Canada is the country that in so many places oversees, along with European countries, democratic elections to ensure that they're free and fair. The world looks to Canada as a model, as a beacon of what democracy is. And then you look at the reality of what we're experiencing as Canadians that have conservative views. We are labeled, we are cancelled, and I simply will not stay silent.
At Rebel News, we don't back down from bringing the other side of the story, and that's why marginalized and vilified people unfairly feel comfortable, like Comfort Sakoma does, to tell you their story through us. If you appreciate the gap in media that Rebel News fills, you should know that unlike 95% of the media in this country, we are funded by the people. And a fun way you can help support us is by doing your Christmas shopping at rebelnewsstore.com. You can also use code REBELCHRISTMAS to save 15% while you do. We appreciate your support.